All right, y'all. So a lot of you guys have been asking me, and I mean a lot of you guys, for like the last few weeks, honestly, a lot of you guys have been asking me to make a video basically talking about element teams in Nikke, like kind of like the best element teams you can use, or a few element teams you can use, or basically what you would want to use for each element. So today we're on Rebuke's account because he has every single character. I'm missing 4 characters, well 5 if you include the Soline, but I'm trying to get her. Right, so we're on Rebuke's account to do this video. We're gonna go through each element and I'm gonna explain why you want to use said characters for said element. Now, there's a few things I do want to point out. When it comes to these element teams, you don't necessarily need to have every single character on that team be the same element. For example, there might be some compositions where this character is like a staple for this team, but obviously they're not of that element. You know what I'm saying? So realistically, you don't need every single character on the team to be of that element, but if they are, plus points. Now another thing is, when it comes to overload gear and stuff like that, I would recommend just giving every single character on your team elemental damage and attack percent when you do give them overload, even if they are a support and you do decide to build them. The reason why you want to do that is because at the end of the day, elemental damage and attack, they're on your team doing damage. Even if they're supporting characters, even if they're not hitting like 5 billion, 1 billion, even if they're not even hitting like 800 million, right? They're still doing damage. So by giving them overload gear and then just giving them elemental damage and attack percent, you're just doing more damage, and more damage equals a better run, or, you know, at least you clearing and stuff like that. It's like, think of the Soline, right? The new Soline. She's a character who's a complete supporter, but because of her buffers like Tove and Drake, that character can hit hard even without elemental damage when she's fighting a stage where she's type advantage, right? So imagine if you give her elemental damage and attack percent on top of that. Now you have a supporter on your team who's helping out your team, and you're also getting damage from that supporter. That's how I see it, right? So first, let's start off with the fire team. I'd say this is the fire team right here. It's as simple as day. The fire team is kind of just flat out like displayed for you. It's literally just the tactical upgrade squad, D-Killer, Wife, and Rappy. The reason why D-Killer, Wife is on this team is solely because of the cooldown reduction. This team lacks cooldown reduction, right? Because obviously the only other character who has cooldown reduction on this team is Rappy, but because Emma's a burst 1 and you have a burst 1 on the team, you're not going to get the cooldown reduction effect from Rappy. Right, so this team missing out on cooldown reduction is big. You need a character with cooldown reduction, and obviously D-Killer Wife is the character who does that. Not only that, she does give a attack damage buff for free, which is great. Again, it's nothing too crazy, but it does technically, I don't know if it becomes a permanent. How long does it take for full charge? 1 second. Yeah, so it becomes a permanent attack damage buff basically, right? So it's big. It's really big having D-Killer Wife on your team. Obviously, when it comes to these characters, Yunwa and Emma, these characters do increase allies projectile explosion damage, and I believe yours is also the same thing. Yeah, affects all allies projectile explosion damage increased by 5% contingency. This already is really good for Rappy because she has projectile damage, right? Projectile explosion damage. So when it came to the tactical upgrade, it was as clear as day. This is what they were trying to make, right? Maybe not even with D-Killer Wife, but when it came to Rappy, Emma, Yunwa, Vesti, this is what they were trying to do, because obviously Rappy used to be a part of their squad and stuff like that. So they added that little effect of the projectile explosion for Rappy. And then obviously their true damage buffers, realistically, they have healing and stuff like that, but their main thing is true damage buffers. That's for Vesti. So this right here is what you would want to use for your fire team. Now, this is what you would want to use if you're fighting mobs. If you're not using mobs and you're fighting like a boss, what should your fire team be then, right? I feel like then your fire team could be something like this, where you have Rappy as your main burst 3 DPS, and then you could also have either Alice as your secondary burst 3 DPS, or this Mihara as your 3rd DPS. And then this is where, again, this goes back to me saying you don't necessarily need to have characters on your team of the type. You would literally just put her on your team, and then I would put my last character would be Helm. This would be my team for fire, right? Because now I have my healing if I do need it, right, from Helm, and then obviously I have an insane buff from Crown and Helm being on the same team together, and then D-Killer Wife is still buffing up my team regardless, right? So this is what I would do for fire if it came down to bosses. Let's go to the next element, which is going to be water. I feel like the water team is so easy now because it's literally just the shotgun team. I mean, I don't even like calling it a shotgun shotgun team because it's like more, it's realistically just Dorothy's team, right? I would probably put Tove on this team. Obviously the brand new Solene can go on this team, and then I would have Helm as my secondary burst 3, and then my burst 2 could either be it would probably, honestly I would just put where is she? Leona, right? This right here is not a bad composition whatsoever. Or again, if we go back to what I said before, where you don't necessarily need them to be the type, I would probably put freaking Grave for Dorothy, right? And Helm doesn't need to be on this team either, but she's just another burst 3 water DPS who is powerful. If you don't want to use Helm, you don't have to. You could use another water DPS such as Winter Ludmilla. She's a really good option, right? Or you can use Eleg as well, right? But obviously if you're going to use this team, make sure you have that cooldown reduction with Solene. Again, you don't even need Solene on this team. She's just a water character who will benefit from Tove on the team, so it makes sense to have her. But if you want, you could put another cooldown reduction character, whether it's Litter or Rouge or DK the Wife, whoever you want, right? But I would say this is the ideal water team right now, right? For story and bosses, realistically, right? Mainly bosses, but you could use it in story as well if you really wanted to, right? But the water team, you can play around with it, right? Your water DPSs are literally just going to be either Quincy or Bredy or Ludmilla. If you have Guillotine or Phantom built, you can use them as well. If you have Eleg built and you want to use her as like an on-field burst 3, you can. I would only ever use Eleg as an off-field burst 3 personally, but you can do that if you want. If you don't want to use Dorothy, and you don't even have to use Tove as well, right? Like Tove makes it easier, but you don't necessarily need to use her. You could still have your original team, which is, I mean, honestly, yeah, you could have your original team, which is just Monstrous Tree as well. That works as well. And you have cooldown reduction, so then your last character here could be Eleg, right? Like this right here would make a lot more sense. You have your heals, Monstrous Trio, cooldown reduction, and then your support for your water DPSs. This is like, there's a lot of different team comps when it comes to water, but that's what I would say when it comes to water. Let's take a look at wind. Wind is obviously so easy. It's literally just this right here. Like this is literally your wind team. Your last character could be whoever the hell you want. 4 of these characters are more than enough. This is just too much, right? Normally for me, I would literally just have this be my team. It's way too much. The first 4 characters on this team is more than enough to get the job done. I've seen it all with my own eyes. It's more than enough to get the job done. That's your win team. You're good to go, right? Now if you don't have this team, obviously we can alter it and stuff like that. Let's go back to the win category. I do think Little Mermaid is kind of like a staple on this team right here. Obviously Asuka and Rei. I don't know why people sleep on these characters. If you built them up, they're very powerful. You don't need to have Scarlet and Liberalia. These two work just fine. And then again, that goes back to your Nayuta. I wouldn't really promote Blanc and Noir in 2025 going into 2026, but they are a viable option as well. If you realistically, they are a viable option as well. Or as well, another composition that you can do, again, not of like, you know, the wind type, but you could do something like this, where then you have Scarlet Black Shadow getting buffed by them, and then you can also just have Liberalia for the fun of it, or somebody else for the fun of it. That is a wind DPS, right? But this also works here because these characters are buffing up everybody on the team. They're just mostly buffing up Scarlet, and then Liberalia is also mostly buffing up Scarlet, right? So this works right here as well, right? So when it comes to the wind team, you have a lot of different options. The wind team is really just there for you. There's a lot of options, but it's up to you. Electric is another one where the team kind of just builds itself for you. Cinderella's the main on that team. Rouge, that's really all you got to see, and then you just build upon this. I would say obviously when you're gonna use Cinderella and stuff like that, so Anise could be your secondary burst 3 if you really want her to be. She doesn't have to be, but another one that a lot of people use is Trina and Scarlet. This is a great combo, and then people usually just slap Anise on the team. This is a full electric team that's getting buffed all the way around. Or you could have Maiden on your team as well. Again, another electric team that's getting it's getting buffed all the way around. And then if you don't want to use, like, you know, Cinderella and Rouge, you could use Exio's favorite item. That's helpful. Again, Trina, Scarlet, Cinderella if you want, or anybody else. Ayn is a good DPS for burst 3 electric. Obviously, you know, Jill could do numbers. Ada Wong, you could use her as well to support. She could be your off-field burst 3 support. And then you could have like Anise if you want. There's a lot of different team comps you could do for electric. Electric really builds itself. This is the team that I would say out of all the teams in the game, elemental wise, this team builds itself. Like, I'm gonna just keep it a G. Electric builds itself. They support, like most electric characters are supporting electric characters, right? Arcana only works for Isabel. Isabel's an electric character, right? You can use Arcana and Isabel. Rouge mainly buffs up Cinderella and Maiden. Both of them are electric character. Anise only buffs up electric characters. That's everybody here. Scarlet doesn't buff up anybody, but Trina buffs up, you know, Scarlet and some electric characters. Like, you know what I'm saying? They kind of just work with themselves, realistically. And then after that, the last one is Iron. Iron, I wouldn't say Iron builds itself so much, but like Iron does have like the mainstream supports. So if we're talking about bosses, a very like, you know, reliable composition is actually going to be, let's take the Iron off. It's this right here. This is a really reliable thing for Iron. Where is a Summer Helm? Here. This is a really good team right here for Iron bosses. If we're talking about just Iron content in general, again, I probably wouldn't use you because you're not going to be good for that. And then I could use Litter still. She's still a great burst 1. But the last character could be like Maxwell as well. Somebody you want, whoever you want to be that last character realistically. It could be Maxwell, it could be Bunny Soda realistically. This is fine. But I think if I was doing PvE, I would just go back to my original like monstrous trio with Iron DPSs, right? Because now you have 3 Iron characters on your team. She's not an Iron character, but she is type advantage against electric characters, hence why you would want to use her for Iron characters, if that makes sense, right? But yeah, when it comes to building teams with elements, it's not more so just click element and slap them on your team. It's just more so of synergy, right? And this is what I mean when I say just because they are a different type doesn't mean they cannot go on your element team. If synergy is there, then I would highly recommend you apply it. That's just as simple as that, right? But I hope that in this video, you guys got some teams. I think every single team I showed in this video is a viable team that most people do use, depending on whatever content it is. Most people do use. I do want to go back to the Iron because I did not talk about, obviously, the other 2 Iron characters that I do find to be very useful. But that would be, you know, Eve and Raven, or, you know, even Raven and Red Hood, or even Rappy and Raven, or even Milk and Red Hood. Like, these are viable compositions right here. You could put Bunny 8 in there, and then you can again go back to that full Iron team like this. This works as well. And then your last character, or you don't even have to have Thing there, right? Again, don't forget, y'all, Rappy is a burst 1 as well if there's no burst 1 on your team. Your last character could just go ahead and be whoever you want. It could be Helm if you really want it to be Helm. It could be Maxwell if you really want it to be Maxwell. It could be whoever you want realistically, right? As long as there's synergy there, you should be fine. But yeah, when it comes to all these teams, like I said, you should be fine. Hopefully in this video, a lot of you guys found a team that helps for certain types of elements and stuff like that. I believe most of the teams I showed in this video and built in this video are teams that, like I said, people use for solo raid, union raid, or bosses in general, or just overall content. But yeah, these are like the teams that people use. So and obviously this team I use, well, I just build whatever I want to do. You know, I build whatever I want to build, to be honest. I don't like, I know this game's a meta over a waifu game, but I still try to use as much characters as I can, right? Even if they're not meta. That's what I'm sure you guys noticed that in my videos now. But it's your boy Zxous. Let me know what you guys think. Love all you guys. I'm out later. Peace.